Hi, I'm Dennis Phillips, and welcome to Everyday Reloading and Shooting. And so once you've found a good combination of brass, bullet, powder, charge weight, primer, now you want to take a look at the seating depth. According to Eric Cortina, any load can be tuned with seating depth. So these are the tools that we use for that. I have here a Hornady overall length gauge, and what this is a rod with a shaft that goes through it, and there's a case, and in this case we're measuring for 223 Remington. And so what we have here is a case that has been tapped out and threaded to go on the end of this rod. We thread that on there like so. And we run it all the way down until it stops right there. And then we have this rod, and what we can do is we can insert a bullet into that case. We can push this gauge into the rifle chamber, and we can measure, and there's a locking nut right here, so we can lock that down, and we can measure to where the ogive of the bullet meets the rifling. And to measure that, we have this Hornady lock and load bullet comparator kit and basic insert set, and it has these bushings and a little Allen wrench, and it fits onto your caliper just like this. And we're going to use that to measure these rounds. All right, so I have the bolt out of the rifle. I have cleaned the rifle barrel and the chamber. I have carefully inserted a cleaning rod into the barrel. And I'm inserting a bullet into the gauge. And I'm loosening the lock nut and allowing that to drop down. Locking that down. I'm going to insert the gauge into the rifle and insert it so that the shoulder of the case seats all the way up against the inside of the chamber. I loosen the lock nut and I slide the bullet forward until it touches the rifling, and then I lock down the lock nut and I'm holding it tight against the wall of the chamber and the bullet against the rifling. And then I carefully remove it because that bullet will want to stick in there. And that's the maximum overall length that this bullet can be loaded. So we're going to write down here max cartridge base to ogive and overall length. Okay, so this is zeroed out. .963. .402. That's the longest a bullet can be seated. 2.402. Okay, so we're at 1.963, and we're going to start off by subtracting 50 thousandths from that, and that's going to be our starting point. So we're going to be going with 1.963. 0.913. And then we're going to drop down at minus 10 increments from there. All right, so I've got these loads written down, and we're going to be seeding all of these. We're going to be starting at 50 thousandths off of the lands, and our first load will be 1.913 inches on the cartridge base to ogive, and the overall length will be 2.352. We're going to step down in 10,000 increments until we get to the starting seeding depth of 2.252 on the overall length. So we will shoot these, see how they group, and then we will come back and do a little bit further testing. If we find a good group here, for example, then we'll come on either side of that 3 6 thousandths lower and 3 6 thousandths further away. And I've got my loading block set up here, and we're loading these with the Federal Gold Medal Small Rifle Match Primers. So we're going to shoot 3 round groups at each seeding depth, and then we're going to come back and focus and see where we need to develop the charges further. I have my Frankfurt Arsenal handheld primer tool, and I'm loading LC brass. We're loading 3 round groups for each. Now we're going to drop some powder. This RCBS Uniflow powder measure should be set from last time, should still be correct. And it looks like the charge weight is just a little low. Okay, now we're on the mark. So with this setting, I'm going to dispense directly into the case and check the weight periodically. I'm not going to empty this just yet. I'm going to set it aside just in case I bump the tray and have to come back to it and dispense some more. Time to seat the boulottes. All right, I'm going to back this way out because we're going to start 1.913 base to ogive. Fairly seated. .998, we need to come down to 1.993. .945. Getting close. 2.912, that's close enough. And there we are, all seated, ready to be bagged up, loaded up, taken to the range, and shot. All right, welcome back to the channel. Once again, we're at the Georgia Gun Club's 100-yard indoor rifle range, and today I'm shooting my Tikka T3X mounted in an MDT Oryx chassis with the Arkin SH4 60-24x50 rifle scope. And today we're shooting Hornady 73 grain ELD match bullets with CFE 223 powder loaded at 23 grains. We're shooting the Federal Gold Medal match primers. We have LC brass, and today we're focusing on seating depth. We've already determined the brass, the load, and the primer to be optimal for this charge weight, so we're going to focus on seating depth today. We have 3-shot groups loaded, and we're going from 50 thousandths off of the rifling to 150 thousandths, and we're going in 10,000th step increments. So we're going to see how these perform. So first up, we're going to start off at 50 thousandths, and then we're going to work our way back in 10,000th inch increments. As always, you're welcome to enjoy the music while I fast forward through my shooting, or you can skip forward to the results that follow. Shooting at 100 yards. All right, I think we got some pretty good indications here. Let's bring them in and take a look. Our average velocity was 2447.9, with the lowest being 2351 and the highest being 2602. So, wow, 250 foot swing there. All right, and here we go. All right, fairly tight, too close together, sort of tight, sort of scattered, but look at here. At 120 off and 130 off. These last few were pretty tight here, but I think between this 120 off and 130 off, that's where we're going to find our node, right there. All right, let's take these home. We'll measure them, take a look at them, get back to you with the results. All right, I'm back from the range with my results. As mentioned, we're continuing the load development on this particular bullet. We're shooting a 73 grain ELD match with 23 grains of CFE 223 powder. These are all loaded with Lake City brass, and we're shooting Federal Gold Medal match primers. And we're averaging velocities around 2,450 feet per second. We're experimenting with seating depth, and we're starting at 50 thousandths off of the rifling and we're stepping back in 10,000th increments. So we'll be shooting 50,000th off, 60,000th, 70, 80, 90, and so forth until we get to 150,000th off. And at 150,000th off, based on my measurements, that puts the overall length at 2.252 inches. And of course, the recommended length, according to the Hornady manual, is 2.25 inches. And so we're 2.252, just 0.02 over that. So that was the load that we ended up with. That was also, since that's the recommended load, that's what I used for the warmers to warm the barrel with. So we started off, and let me say right off the bat that all of these groups are under an inch. The largest of all was 0.92 inches, and the best was 0.28. And we had some really good groups here. But when we look at the velocity on all of these averaged 2,448 feet per second. I didn't get standard deviations on all of these because what we did is we recorded the entire 36 shots that we shot here. But then I went back in and I was able to look at each individual shot. So I couldn't figure a standard deviation, but I could figure an extreme spread on some of these. So at 150,000th off of the riflings, that's at a 2.252 seating depth. We had a group of 0.61 inches. And you see the average height above the point of aim here. That's represented by the red line that I've drawn here. What I did, these first three shots grouped a little low and to the left, and I like to shoot just above the point of aim. So I moved it one click up and two clicks to the right and shot the rest of these at that setting. And the rest of these were pretty much on center horizontally. Okay, then we go on. We start out at 50 thousandths off of the rifling. We're at 0.46 and we're shooting about an inch high. And as these go, you'll see this red line drops consistently as the barrel heats up or as we get further back from the rifling. I guess those average velocities begin to slow down a little bit because we're starting out here at around 2560, then it goes to 2490. 2501, 2488, 2402. So that is dropping. So that would account for the center of impact dropping there as well. But at 0.60, we've got a 0.56 group. At 0.70, we've got a 0.77 group. At 80 thousandths, we've got a 0.54 group. At 90 thousandths, we've got a 0.68 group. So that 0.54 is looking pretty respectable, and a 0.56 here as well. We continue moving off of the rifling. So now we're 100 thousandths off. We're shooting an overall length of 2.302. We're shooting about 3/4 of an inch high, and we've got a group of 0.74. Then as we back off the rifling, that average point of impact drops, and you can see here for 4 groups in a row, 7, 8, 9, and 10, we're shooting about 1/4 of an inch above the point of aim. And we have velocities at 2475, 2402, 2371, and 2397. So really close to that 2400. This first one at 2475 is a little higher than the others, but these others closer to that 2400 foot per second are grouping really tight. But anyway, that's the node I think where we want to be is right in there. So at 120 thousandths off of the rifling, we have an overall length of 2.282 inches, and we're shooting a group of 0.28. At 130 off, we've got a group of 0.36, and we've got an overall length of 2.272. So I think what I want to do is I want to take these two groups, and I'm going to go just to the left of that and go shorter to where we have an overall length of 2.287. Then we'll go 2.282, 2.277, 2.272, and 2.267. So we're going to go just to the left and just to the right of these two charge weights here that were at 0.28 and 0.36. And I think we might find something in there. And then even when we get to 140 thousandths off, we're at 2.262 on the overall length, but we've still got a group size of 0.3, and we're just about a quarter of an inch above that point of impact. And then when we increase that to 150, then that average point of impact begins to shift and it rises a little. But also, if you look at these last four groups, here, 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 and here, 8, 9, 10, and 11, you'll see that these shots are all clustered inside of the upper half of this diamond. Well, we've got two here, but all three here, 2 out of 3 here with one touching, and 2 out of 3 here. So really tight in this area right here. So that's where we want to focus on this low development. All right, so I hope you found this information helpful. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or questions, please leave those in the comments below. I try to interact with everybody that comments. I hope you will also like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.